Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to share with you 10 fragrances that have pretty bad longevity and a little bit poor production. So this is going to be 10 fragrances that I find don't perform very well, but I still love. And I wanted to share this video with you because I know a lot of people really focus on performance as a deciding factor if they get a scent. And I always kind of talk to you guys a little bit about this is how the fragrance performs, this is how it doesn't perform, but I really just kind of wanted to showcase 10 scents in my collection that really don't perform, but I still really enjoy. Now, first things first, there's a lot of very light violet fragrances in this list. In fact, I'd say almost half of the fragrances in here, so I'm going to put them all into one group so this fragrance isn't too long. By design, certain compositions are not generally going to perform very much in regards to longevity. But for me personally, longevity has never been a deciding factor on if I'm going to buy a fragrance or not. For a lot of people, it is. And I've always said, however you want to decide to purchase a fragrance, spend your money, wear a scent, whatever's important to you, that's correct. So just because for me personally, I don't view longevity as a reason to not buy something, I don't think that there's anything wrong where people, that's the most important thing. So I'm just kind of letting you guys know. Also, when it comes down to fragrances, performance, environment has a big part to play in that. And I do live in a very harsh environment for scents. I used to live in South Florida, and now I live in central northern Florida. And it's still very hot and very humid here. And most of these fragrances I wore when I lived down more towards the tropic area of where I used to live. So I do know that environment does play a huge part. Also, with this list, this is based on my personal experience. There might be other reviewers or you guys out there yourselves might have different experiences with each of these fragrances. So just because I say it doesn't perform well doesn't mean that another reviewer or somebody else who says it performs well is wrong and I'm right, or I'm wrong and they're right. Performance has a huge place. Environment, how you wear your skin, a whole bunch of different things come into play when it comes down to performance. So this is, again, an opinion based off my experience, fragrances that don't perform. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that too. I'm not bashing any of these scents. Some of these I absolutely adore. I purchased every single one of these, so I have no qualms at all about these fragrances. I do love them, and I think they're great. So let's get into the list. The first 4 fragrances I'm going to talk about in bulk are going to be the violet dominant scents. Now, violet is a beautiful aromatic floral fragrance, and I think mixed with other scents, it is a note that can be used to elevate and definitely add depth and complexity to masculine fragrances, feminine fragrances. It's really a very versatile and unique, beautiful floral scent. Now, generally when you see violet on its own, it's usually composed in more light, effervescent, sparkly, feminine floral fragrances. They're designed to be silky and just gently kiss the skin with this beautiful, delicate floral scent. By design, those compositions don't really last a long period of time. So whenever I see a very violet-dominated fragrance marketed to women, I generally assume that those are going to be very fleeting on the skin. Each of these fragrances tends to last about an hour on my skin, but the price points vary from about $6 to $8 to over $200. So the fragrances are Yardley London April Violets. This one I like to spray right out of the shower. I will just do 1 spritz of it, but if I do wear this as a fragrance, it does last on my skin. I'd say if I'm lucky and I've just put on lotion and my skin's perfectly primed for scent, about an hour and a half. It doesn't have much of any projection either. One that's kind of like a step up from this is a little bit more delicate, a little bit more sophisticated, lasts a little bit longer on the skin, but still is very fleeting, is Flora by Gucci Generous Violet. This is a great scent. I love this fragrance, and I really love what Gucci does with florals. It's becoming one of my most favorite designer houses. But I find this particular scent to be kind of like Yardley, very light, refreshing, silky, feminine, playful, flirty, and fleeting. It lasts, if I'm lucky, 2, maybe 3 hours on the skin. Maybe. I think 1 or 2 times I've gotten a lot with that, but not that much. Going back to one that lasts the longest on my skin, which if I'm lucky about 3 hours, but about 2, is from Toka, and it's Maya. This one's a little bit sharper, a little bit sweeter. It's got a little bit more robustness in the body of the scent compared to the other violet fragrances, but again, it's more on the fleeting side. Now the controversial, and it's not controversial because it's a controversial fragrance, but the price point of this is from Eric Beautyba, and it's Fragile Violet. Now Fragile Violet from Eric Beautyba is an expensive fragrance. For 100 ml, you're looking at spending $210 USD. So it is pricey. And I know a lot of people, when they consider spending a lot of money on a fragrance, longevity is the #1 thing. They're like, if it doesn't last past 6 hours, why would I waste the money? And I completely understand and respect that. I, however, don't care, and I think I'm right, and I also think other people who view longevity as being ultimately very important and a deciding factor, especially when you're spending hundreds of dollars on a bottle of perfume, right as well. So this fragrance right here, this is the Fragile Violet. This is the smaller bottle, so this is 100 ml. It doesn't have an atomizer, so I've poured this into, or I decant it into a smaller atomizer. So I'm not just splashing this on, I'm spraying it. I find that this fragrance, I'm gonna put it down because I'm very clumsy, very clumsy. I find that that fragrance performs 2 hours at best. So the fragrance, the smell of it is one of the most beautiful, watery, just translucent violet scents for someone who loves violet in its varieties. And I'm still on the hunt for the perfect candied violet fragrance. And candied violet scents are a perfect example of violet fragrances that have excellent longevity because of the added, like say, usually like vanilla or amber. The base notes are generally a little bit more robust. These are more gentle and more light, more fragile, so to speak. This fragrance has a beautiful complexity to it. It's a beautiful tribute to violet, and I would expect nothing less from Eric Beautyba, considering who he is. And I've smelled every single one of his fragrances, and I love them. And I love that scent. That's why I bought it. I knew it wasn't going to last on the skin. I didn't care. So for me personally, that fragrance, because of its beauty, because of its lightness and its etherealness, is worth the money, but it is fleeting. So do keep that in mind. Not all of his fragrances are fleeting, so it's this longevity for some of his other fragrances are very good, like almost like 12 hours, like very good. But this particular fragrance is a lot lighter and does not have the lifespan of what you would hope to spend when you spend like $210. I can see people thinking it's not worthy of buying because it doesn't last barely 2 hours on the skin. Next we have Melrose Place from Way. Now I have both fragrances, North Bondi and Melrose Place, and I really like these fragrances. And North Bondi actually performs great. Lasts on the skin, smells really great, has nice presence, projection. This one, not so much. Like, I'm kind of surprised. The price of these are like $55, so they're not bad at all. But about 3 hours with this one. So I kind of was hoping for a little bit more than that, based on the composition, but it is what it is. Now, if I think of a house that is known for being beastly, it would be Bond No. 9. And most of the scents do have tremendous, and I mean tremendous, staying power and a crazy longevity, crazy projection, amazing sillage to the point where it's like almost thickening or choking you. It's kind of oppressive. This particular fragrance has all of that the first 20 minutes and then it kind of disappears. And I do really enjoy this fragrance, and it's Chelsea Flowers from Bond No. 9. Now the reason why this fragrance is a part of this list doesn't just have to do that it's one of the more poorer performing fragrances from Bond No. 9. It has to do with how startling the performance changes, at least on my skin. Now other people might have better examples of longevity, like it lasts longer, it performs better, but for some reason For some silly reason, it is so beastly, so loud, so bold the first 20 minutes, and then it becomes so intimate. It's almost like my skin absorbs it like a dry sponge, like whatever sound you make, I don't know, I'm sorry. And then it kind of disappears. I can smell it on my skin if I hold my arm up like this, but it doesn't project. It doesn't have much of any staying power past 2 hours. And it's surprising considering Bond. The Bond's fragrances are known for their performance, and it just doesn't perform. It's a gorgeous scent, albeit very generic, which is why it's one of the least popular fragrances from Bond. But part of me, deep down, working at a fragrance store, really loves generic floral scents. I do. It is something I enjoy. And I find that Chelsea Flowers is a beautiful example of a generic floral scent. So I do really enjoy this fragrance. But it doesn't perform the way the others do, and for the price point I can see people being like, eh. Now fragrance, I don't expect any from this line, at least these particular fragrances, to perform, but are still nonetheless ridiculously beautiful, are Jo Malone. Jo Malone fragrances aren't really known for their performance, and I'd say one of the weaker performing ones is Wild Bluebell. This is again a beautiful scent. If you guys know me, you know how much I love this fragrance. It is very beautiful. It's very gorgeous, very timeless fragrance, very easy to wear, but it doesn't really last past a few hours on the skin. Another lineup of scents whenever I see people recommending this lineup or asking about this, everyone's always like, but the performance. And I'm like, yes, obviously. It's the Aqua Allegoria line from Guerlain. And if I had to specifically choose one that kind of didn't perform and project and compare to the others, I would say Erba Fresca. Now this is a very fleeting fragrance on the skin, at least for me. I get a few, maybe 3 to 4 hours on my skin, but it also isn't very loud. If you layer this, however, it will be louder and it will be longer. So I really like to layer it with citrus fragrances. I think it layers beautifully with citrus fragrances and it lasts so much longer. But on its own and a few others like Limon Verde and Pampaloon, those don't tend to last a super long time on the skin. But the price point of these scents, I don't think it's a big deal personally. This next fragrance, I've seen some people talk about it having great performance and other people being like, I'm on the line, but I bought it, I love it. It's Dylan Blue for Women from Versace. This fragrance to me has a little bit more oomph than what I expected it to have. I just love the way it smells so good. But it's very light on the skin, and it's not very there after like 3 hours. So when I first started wearing this fragrance is when I worked at Ulta. I would spray it every day because I was only allowed to wear scents that they sold at Ulta. And so I would kind of try fragrances. I would come in without scents and I would try fragrances that I maybe wouldn't try normally because I'm a little bit more adventurous. And this is one that I found that I really fell in love with. So I wore this a few times. I really liked it. I bought a bottle of it, obviously. I do enjoy it. But I do have to re-apply this, so if I had like an 8-hour shift, I'd have to apply it 4 times. So I'd say it lasts on the skin maybe 2 to 3 hours. In the first hour and a half, it has nice projection, not crazy, mild, but then it becomes incredibly intimate, almost a skin scent after 2 hours. So this is a fragrance that, the women's version, let me just kind of, reiterate that, the women's one, not the men's, the women's, this one right here, I don't know why I'm doing that, I'm sorry, is the one I'm talking about, not the men's. The men's performs better. The women's is lighter and not as there. Now this next fragrance is one that I knew wasn't going to last, but I don't care because I like it. And it's from Tom Ford, and this is the very last one, and it's Mandrino di Amalfi Aqua. Now, I have a few other aqua fragrances. I have Costa Azzurra Aqua. I have a few decants of Neroli Portofino Aqua. So I do know that this kind of formulation isn't designed to last a very long time, but compared to the other ones, this one is very fleeting. I get 3 hours on my skin and it projects the first hour and then it's a skin scent. I don't mind it. I actually really like it. It's very refreshing. I just love the way it smells, so I don't mind it not performing, but it definitely doesn't perform like other fragrances from Tom Ford, even the ones that are aqua. Anyway guys, those are the fragrances to just kind of round out the list. There's a lot of fragrances out there that are not going to perform based on environment, and I do kind of want to remind you guys of where I live. It does play a huge part in longevity and performance. And a lot of times when people are asking for recommendations for me for scents, one of the most popular recommendations I get is fragrances for heat and humidity. Now, humidity varies state to state, region to region, country to country, continent to continent. So the type of humidity that I deal with isn't going to be the same type of humidity environment as somebody who lives in the Middle East or Africa or Australia. Everything is different. It also depends on the city, where you live, and the environment, your skin. It definitely plays a huge part. That's why it's always important to sample things if longevity is a huge importance to you, to make sure that a fragrance is going to last on your skin, is going to work in your environment, and going to last the amount of time where you're comfortable spending your money. So make sure to just do your due diligence and try and get samples and decants if you can. I would say personally that if you're looking for a fragrance that has good performance, definitely make sure you're prepping your skin properly, make sure you're clean and moisturized, and make sure that the moisturizer is absorbed into your skin before you apply. If you guys would like me to do a tips and tricks on how to apply fragrance to make them last longer, I'd be more than happy to do that, but I do know a lot of people have already done those videos, so that's why I haven't done one. But if you would like me to give you my advice, I can definitely do. Because I live in a high humidity environment, I do have to utilize a lot of hacks in order to make fragrance last longer. I'd be more than happy to share with you the things that I do to make my fragrances last. But in any case, I do hope you enjoyed this video. It was supposed to be fun and lighthearted, but I also kind of wanted to share with you guys some fragrances that weren't quite hitting the mark in regards to performance. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you agree or disagree with any of these fragrances, definitely let me know in the comment section below, or any other fragrances that you think are missing the mark in regards to how they perform. Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.